Algebra Unit 5, Lesson 9, Notes 9, Conditional, Relative Frequencies, and Association. Recall the two-way table from the previous lesson that had to do with superpowers and males versus females. A conditional relative frequency compares a frequency count to the marginal total that represents the condition of interest. So there are two types. There's row conditional relative frequencies and column conditional relative frequencies. In a row, the condition of interest of the rows is gender because our genders are in the rows, female and male. So our condition of interest would be the gender. To find the row conditional relative frequencies, we divide the total for that row, we divide the frequency by the total for that row. So for females, we had 49 out of 228 females wanted to fly. So we're figuring out that relative frequency. So 49 divided by 228 gives us a relative frequency of 0.215. Similarly with males, 51 out of 222 males wished to fly. So when we divide it out, it would equal 0.230. And then, of course, we also do our total row. 100 total people wanted to fly out of 450 total people, which is 0.222. So all we're doing is we're taking our totals on the right-hand side in this last, in the total column, and we're taking each of these frequencies in the row and dividing by the total. So let's go ahead and fill this out for the row frequencies here. So our freeze time, we have 60 females wish they could freeze. So 60 out of our total of 228 for the row, and that equals 0.263. Our invisibility for females was 48 out of 228, which is 0.211. Super strength for female, 1 out of 228, which is 0.004. Telepathy was 70 out of 228, which is 0.156. And in total, we had 228 females. So 228 divided by 228 is 1.000. Your totals will always be 1.000. If we, your totals in the last column, I should say. Let's go ahead and do our males here. Our males that now remember our males are out of 222. So the males that like to freeze is 71. So 71 out of 222. So our denominator changed. Again, you're looking at, your denominator will be the row total. So this is 0.320. And I want you to go ahead and keep going with your invisibility, super strength, telepathy, and total for males and for total. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and record them all in. And then once you see them, you can pause and jot them all down or check your answers. Okay, so my chart is filled in at this time. You may want to pause it so you can check your answers to make sure they're correct or to copy them down. Interpretation of the first cell. So if we were to take a look at this first cell here, 21.5% of females prefer to fly as their favorite superhero. Notice how I took this decimal and changed it to a percent. So again, 21.5% of females, this is the condition of interest. So we always talk about the row or the condition of interest first. So 21.5% of females prefer to fly as their favorite superpower, So now let's interpret the shaded cell. So our shaded cell is right here. We're going to change this to a percent, so move the decimal over twice. That'd be 11.3. So 11.3%. Again, our condition of interest is our row. And in our row, we have males. So 11.3% of males. And then talk about what they prefer to do. In this case, they prefer to have super strength. So prefer super strength. Okay. Let's talk about column conditional relative frequencies now. Column conditional relative frequencies, the common condition of interest is superpower. Okay. To find this column conditional relative frequency, we divide the frequency by the total for that column. So now we're doing columns instead of rows, and the condition of interest are the columns. So to fly, freeze time, invisibility, super strength, and telepathy. Okay, the superpower. Those are your conditions of interest. So again, I'm going to fill in a couple of these, and then you can go ahead and pause and record the rest. So we have females, 49 out of 100. We're still taking that numerator from our chart up top, okay? The chart up top from our previous lesson in two-way tables. Okay, so we have females, 49, and our total is 100. So 100 people prefer to fly, and 49 of them are female. So let's look at freeze time. Freeze time, we have 60 females. So we have 60 females. And then if you look at the total in the column, it's 131. So 60 over 131, which equals 0.458. For males, we have 71 out of that 131, which would be 0.542. And our total, of course, is 131 out of 131, which will be 1.000. Go ahead and fill in the rest of this chart using the column totals. Here's the chart filled in. Take a moment to pause and check your answers. If we take a look at our first cell, to fly, females, we have 49%, again, changing it to a percent, of the people who chose to fly as their favorite superhero are female. So it's a little bit different from our row frequencies here. We have our condition of interest is the superpower. So we want to talk about the superpower first. So 49% of people who chose to fly are females. So let's take a look at our shaded column. Again, invisibility is our condition of interest. Changing this to a percent, we get 36%. 36% of, again, we're looking at the invisibility, 36% of the people who chose invisibility and they are males, so are males. So it's a little bit of a play on words. Two categorical variables are associated if the row or column frequencies are different for the row or columns of the table. For example, if the selection of superpower selected for females is different than for males, then gender and superpower favorites are associated. The evidence of association is strongest when the conditional relative frequencies are quite different. If the conditional relative frequencies are nearly equal for all categories, then there's probably no association. Please note that association does not imply causation. Real quick, association versus causation. Causation has to do with cause and effect. Did one of the factors cause the other to happen? Is it a cause and effect situation? Then it would be causation. If it's not, but there's still some sort of association happening, it would be association. Okay, so if you're looking at your relative conditional frequencies, and the relative conditional frequencies are pretty equal, then there's no association. However, if they're different, and even drastically different, that would imply an association. Again, it doesn't always mean it's a causation. It doesn't mean one causes the other. Students were given the opportunity to prepare for a college placement test in mathematics by taking a review course. Not all students took advantage of this opportunity. The following results were obtained from a random sample of students who took the placement test. Okay, so we have in our rows people who took the review course and people who did not take the review course. And in our columns, they were placed in Math 200, 150, and then of course our total columns and rows. Do you think there is an association between taking the review course and a student's placement in math class? Well, let's take a look at our numbers here. We have those that took a review course, 40, 13, 7. There were 60 that took the review course and 40 that did not, making a total of 100 students. So we have here 40 of the kids that took the review course ended up in the higher math. So 40 and 10, 40 out of 50 kids placed in Math 200. We've got, in the lower end, 15 who did not take the review course ended up in the lower math, as opposed to 7. So I would say there is some sort of association here. So I would honestly say that those kids who took the review course were more likely to end up in a higher math course. If you knew that a student took a review course, would it make a difference in what you predicted for which math course they were placed in? Again, because I think there's an association, I would say yes. Do you think taking the review course caused a student to place in a higher math class? So again, it's asking, do you think it's a causation? In this case, I would say no. Taking the review course did not cause a student to be placed in a high math class. Reasons for that: you could have a student that is just naturally really good in math, and they maybe felt they didn't need to take the review course because they are very strong in that subject, and they still could have placed in Math 200. So taking the review course did not cause the students to end up in the higher math, especially since students that took the review course, there were 7 of them that took the review course that didn't place in that high math. They placed in the lower math. Construct a row conditional relative frequency table of the above data. So we're doing the row conditional frequencies. So I'll start you off on this, and then I want you to finish the chart and see if you can answer the questions below. So took a review course. We have 40 kids that took a review course. And we are doing a row conditional frequency, so we want to look at that row total. Our row total is 60. So this would be 40 out of 60. We're going to round to the nearest thousandth, which would be 0.667. Students that did not take the review course, we have 10 out of 40. So 10 out of 40, which is 0.250. And then our total, we have 50 out of 100. Which equals 0.500. And again, round to the nearest thousandths place. Go ahead and finish that table. And then I want you for the next section is to interpret the shaded cell. And then again, answer a couple questions on these frequencies. I just want you to take note on the 3rd page of your notes, there is a question up top that's referring to the page before. So if you're wondering where this is coming from, it's on the page before. And I want you to go ahead, I believe you can manage filling out the row frequency. Here we are, the row frequency for these as well. Again, you're concerned with the rows, and then answering the couple questions that follow.